Sales outreach strategies to crush your quota in 2025. Outreach got harder, and quotas didn't. If outbound feels tougher than it used to, the data backs you up. Average cold email reply rates are sitting around 5.1 to 5.8%. And even getting a prospect to see your message is harder, with typical cold open rates closer to 15 to 25%. On the phone side, only 2 to 2.3% of dials turn into a booked meeting, which means more activity isn't a plan, it's a path to burnout. At the same time, leadership expectations moved in the opposite direction. Sales quotas climbed roughly 37% in 2024, while SDR quota attainment hovered just above the halfway mark. That gap is why most teams feel squeezed. The market wants more pipeline from the same lists with less margin for generic messaging. In 2025, quota-crushing outreach isn't about a single hack or the newest tool. It's about running a disciplined, multi-channel system, tight targeting, crisp offers, coordinated email plus phone plus LinkedIn touches, and AI used as leverage, not a replacement. That's the lens we use at SalesHive as a B2B sales agency. Build predictable meetings by engineering the process end to end, then optimize relentlessly. The 2025 benchmark reality and why multi-channel wins. Email is still the preferred channel for most buyers. Roughly 73 to 77% of B2B buyers say they'd rather be contacted that way. So abandoning cold email is a mistake. The right takeaway is that inbox competition is intense, so you need sharper targeting and cleaner execution to earn attention. When teams treat email like a volume game, they don't just lose replies, they lose deliverability and credibility. Multi-channel outreach is where performance separates in 2025 because buyers don't live in one place. Organizations that run coordinated email, phone, and social sequences report up to 287% higher response rates than single-channel programs, and teams combining phone, email, and LinkedIn often see 28 to 37% higher lead conversion rates. If your SDR agency motion, in-house or outsourced, still treats channels as siloed tasks, you're leaving the biggest lever untouched. Use benchmarks like these to diagnose, not to brag. Opens tell you if you're getting a chance. Replies tell you if the message is relevant. Meetings tell you if the offer is compelling. Pipeline tells you whether the whole system is producing revenue outcomes. Our best programs treat meeting and pipeline per list as the scoreboard, then work backward to fix the upstream inputs. Targeting is the revenue lever most teams underuse. When reply rates are weak, teams usually blame copy first, then subject lines, then the market. In reality, the most common failure mode is targeting, broad segments, vague personas, and lists that don't match how buying committees actually form. If you want to move from average 5.1 to 5.8% reply rates to strong 8 to 12% performance, the biggest gains come from narrowing the ICP and going deeper on account and persona relevance. Treat ICP work like a pipeline investment, not admin work. Lock down firmographics, industry, size, geography, technographics, core systems and tools, and triggers, new initiatives, hiring, funding, compliance pressure. Then map the buying committee so SDRs don't bet everything on one title. This is also where list-building services matter. A clean list with verified roles and accurate contact data is often the difference between "nobody replied" and "we booked meetings all week." The fastest way to lose is spray and pray outreach to huge generic lists. It typically produces 1 to 2% performance, burns through your TAM, and creates downstream deliverability problems that are hard to unwind. Instead, build smaller lists that your reps can actually personalize well, and focus on message market fit by persona, because a CFO, RevOps leader, and VP sales should never receive the same pitch with different first names. Build sequences around buyer behavior, not SDR convenience. Great outbound sequences feel like a logical conversation that happens to span multiple channels. The most reliable cadences run 15 to 20 business days, progressing from problem awareness to proof to a clear next step, while referencing prior touches to create continuity. This is exactly why email-only outreach underperforms. You miss the prospects who ignore inboxes but will respond after a voicemail and a LinkedIn touch. Design each touch to earn the next one. Early touches should be short and specific. Middle touches should add evidence, a relevant use case or result, and later touches should offer a simple opt-out or alternate path, like, "Should I talk to someone else on your team?" If your sequence is just 5 versions of the same pitch, you're not following up, you're repeating yourself. Operationally, standardize a small library of core sequences and iterate monthly based on outcomes. Start by auditing the last 90 days of channel performance against benchmarks like 15 to 25% opens, 5 to 6% replies, and 2 to 2.3% dial-to-meeting rates. Then, focus improvements on the worst-performing segment first. The goal is not more touches, it's fewer touches that are more connected, more relevant, and easier for SDRs to execute with consistency. If your outbound isn't working, don't ask for more activity. Ask whether the right people are hearing the right message in the right order across the right channels. What works by channel? Email, phone, and LinkedIn in one motion. Cold email still carries the workload in most outbound programs, but it has to be tighter than ever. We recommend short emails, often 50 to 125 words, with one sharp hook and a soft CTA that's easy to answer. When you keep the message relevant and specific, average performance around 5 to 6% replies becomes achievable, and strong segments can push higher without turning your domain into a spam cannon. Cold calling is still valuable, it just needs the right job in the sequence. With only 2 to 2.3% of dials becoming meetings, your cold calling team must be tightly targeted, well-timed, and coached on concise talk tracks that tie back to the emails the prospect already saw. This is where a cold calling agency or specialized cold calling services can outperform generalists. Better lists, better call coaching, and better process discipline typically mean more conversations per hour, not just more dials. LinkedIn is the glue that makes the outreach feel familiar instead of random. Use it to warm accounts, profile views, and light engagement, connect with persona-specific notes, and reinforce the story you've already told via email and phone. When prospects see consistent, non-obnoxious touches across channels, multi-channel systems can drive response lifts as high as 287%, not because LinkedIn is magic, but because coordinated presence builds trust faster. Common mistakes that quietly kill pipeline, and the fixes. The first mistake is relying on one channel, usually email, and then blaming low engagement when performance stalls. The data is clear that multi-channel programs drive materially higher response and conversion, often 28 to 37% better conversion rates than single-channel approaches, because they match how buyers actually behave. Fix it by coordinating touches and referencing prior steps. I left a voicemail yesterday, so every channel supports the same story. The second mistake is over-automating with generic AI copy. When every message reads like a template, filters and humans both spot it instantly, and you end up scaling irrelevance faster. Use AI for research summaries, first-pass drafts, and prioritization, but enforce minimum viable personalization where the rep adds one concrete insight that proves intent. The third mistake is mismanaging follow-up and measurement. Too few follow-ups means you forfeit meetings you already paid for with list and tooling costs, while overly long sequences can trigger unsubscribes and spam complaints in many industries. Balance activity metrics with outcome metrics, meetings set, opportunities created, and pipeline by sequence, so your team doesn't optimize for speed at the expense of revenue quality. AI and automation. Force multiplier, not autopilot. AI belongs in outbound, but only where it removes friction without removing judgment. In practice, the best use cases are account research, drafting variations for different personas, summarizing calls, and recommending next best actions inside the sales engagement workflow. Teams that treat AI as set it and forget it usually get short-term output and long-term performance decay. The winning pattern is simple. Let AI handle the busy work and keep humans responsible for messaging strategy and relationship moments. Your rep should still decide which insight matters, which pain to lead with, and when to escalate to an AE for discovery. If 100% of your outbound copy is written and sent by bots, you're not building a pipeline engine, you're building a reputation problem. At SalesHive, we combine experienced SDRs with AI-powered personalization to scale relevance without sacrificing quality. Across our outbound sales agency programs, we've booked 100,000 plus B2B meetings by using automation to speed research and customization, while keeping human control over the offer, tone, and timing. That same approach works whether you run an internal team or an outsourced sales team. Use AI to make your best reps faster, not to make average messaging louder. How to turn this into a predictable quota plan in 2025. Start with a 90-day outreach audit and be brutally honest about what's working. Compare your deliver rate, opens, replies, meetings, and pipeline to realistic benchmarks like 15 to 25% opens and 5 to 6% replies. Then, identify the single biggest constraint, usually list quality or offer clarity. Fix the constraint first, because improving the wrong part of the system just makes you inefficient at scale. Next, standardize execution, so performance doesn't depend on a few heroic reps. Build a small sequence library, document your ICP in a format list builders can use, and set a personalization standard that SDRs can hit every day without burning out. Then, run weekly quality reviews, email teardowns, and call coaching, because the fastest way to improve meetings is to improve what prospects actually experience. Finally, decide what to keep in-house versus where sales outsourcing makes sense. If your team is consistently under-attaining, hiring is slow, or AEs are drowning in prospecting, partnering with an SDR agency can stabilize pipeline while you focus internal effort on discovery, demos, and closing. We built SalesHive to make this decision less risky. Flexible scaling, specialized cold email agency plus cold calling services execution, and measurable outcomes that map to meetings and pipeline, not just activity.